And good evening, everyone. Welcome. Tonight's going to be a fun event. I'm here with Shawn Renzoh Head, and we're here to discuss a really awesome CD that we did called Music from Nowhere. And I'm going to put it up here in just a second. If I can get all of this to play happy. There we go. It's on the cover. So, and there's something else hidden in here that I didn't expect. Is that, nope. There we go. All the technology, it's crazy. So how are you tonight, Shawn?
Oh, I'm doing great. I was just thinking about the technology thing because I've been doing a lot of video editing and stuff.
Right.
So I know, like, it's amazing when it works. like, like all the tech, it's great when it works, but when it's not, oh, it's the biggest pain.
It is. And I'm shifting here, and as we get ready for all of this, I'm going to, I think, like you, I'm going to share this around and just make sure that we're happening, because of course there's about I think a 15-second delay from what Facebook's getting.
Yes, that's correct.
So let's see here.
All right, cool. So I just shared all that stuff, so we should be good.
Okay. Let's see here. And I'm going to share it to one other of my pages as we get going. Maybe.
Awesome.
Let's go here.
Also try to keep an eye on comments as well.
Keep an eye on what?
On comments. I'll do that.
And I've got live comments that'll come over, so you'll get it there. I've actually got live comments coming into my feed. So if I see them pop up faster, between the two of us, we should be able to get to it. So let me go to this one other place here. There we go. Okay. So this was I'm just going to start for myself. Man, what an absolutely fun project this has been. Lots of trials and tribulations trying to get it all happening. The first time they sent us stuff, we ended up with a rap album.
I almost thought about changing my career. I always thought I was gonna become a rapper.
Well, I don't know. I've heard you play some pretty interesting things on the flute. So flute beatboxing, that was something I'd never seen before, and hey, maybe that's the next thing. Maybe we have to go further. Not to mention, I've just got since we last did anything, I've got a whole new set of 7 bowls that are fairly well tuned. The only one is the C bowl is a C sharp. The other ones are all pure tones. So I've got C sharp, D, E, F, G, A, B. So I think we can probably have some fun there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A little more tuned. So the craziness. I don't know do you want to start, because I think we can start back just for a second on how this all began, which I think was your walking into the path of tea.
Yeah. So I had been talking with Chris from the Path of Tea about doing a concert there and all that kind of stuff, and I said that I wanted to meet more people and do more collaborations and do something interesting. And I told him, like, do you know anybody? He's like, yeah, I know this guy named Harry. I'm like, okay, cool. So what does he do? And he's like, he's a monk. Okay. What about that? Like, he's like, well, he does gongs and bells and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And so then we had to, the madness of trying to find a time for us to get together was also very difficult too, because we both have very different and very busy schedules. So, but yeah, and at the first meeting, it was just kind of like a click, and that's when like the real insanity ensued. Where it's like we had all these ideas coming in at once, and then we had to like calm ourselves down because we were like, we're going to do 6 world tours. It's like, okay, well, let's just start with the CD.
Well, and yeah, and even that was, what started as a CD, and we've still got more material that I'm going through and layering on right now, doing some different percussions. So we had this CD going on, and then some other things for some other projects.
Yes.
So yeah, it's we were working on. It seemed like we were working on multiple projects at one time, even though
Yes.
the CD was still the main focus.
Yeah, it was just like we had some ways to advertise that we were thinking about of like, just having some like a flute. We were thinking about doing like an advertisement video or a track.
Right.
And so then we recorded all that stuff, and then we were like, God, that's just really good by itself. Like, you should just upload this to your YouTube. And then we try to do something else, and they're like, well, that's a really good one too. Just upload that one to your YouTube as well. And then it didn't have anything relationship to the CD, because you liked the traditional music from Japan just by itself, how it was. You didn't really need anything in your perspective. So we were kind of bouncing around ideas, and I just loved your recording work so much. I was like, well, can you record a separate CD for me? And you're like, oh yeah, cool. We can get this location, and we haven't even started the other one, but we're talking about a different CD and then another CD on top of that, and they were talking about performances over here. It was just absolute madness.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. So when we started talking about doing this CD, obviously because Chris put us together and we wanted a CD that would be representative of a tea shop, something that would be cool enough to be played anywhere, but even more cool enough to be able to be played in a tea shop. And I think it's hard to find something that's comfortable for everybody. And I think that's something that was achieved with this was, after talking with Chris, and after he's heard it and he's played it, going, wow, this is actually something that can appeal to a large group of people. And the one comment that I've gotten I've gotten a little bit of feedback from the people who've bought the CD already, and that's that it just puts them in this extremely calm mood. They can all be
That's wonderful.
They can all be in this chaotic crap, all of this chaotic crap, and then go, wow, I just feel like I want to sit and meditate. And they say, of course, knowing that it was a tea album, they said, oh yeah, and we just want to sit and drink tea.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of my friends had bought the CD as well, and I asked him, like, give me a review. Let me know what you honestly think about it. I'm not going to be hurt if you say it sucks. But he listened through and he's like, dude, speaking of your CD, I'm like, yeah. It's like, dude, it's really good. Like, really? You really like it? He's like, yeah. It's like, dude, I listened to the whole thing. Like, I never listened to a whole CD. It's like, you listen to the whole thing? And I was like, in one sitting. Like, it's like, whoa. So I guess it must be pretty good. He really liked it, and he was like listening to all the sounds, and like he got really deep. Like he was really meditating while he was listening to the piece, because he was asking, like, there was this track. I don't know which one it was. It was somewhere in the middle. Like, okay, thanks. It's 55 minutes, but we'll find somewhere. And he's like, there was a point where you were doing a thing, and it sounded like a typewriter, but you were doing something. And I was like, what part are you talking about? And he's like, the part. And then like we digged around for about 20 minutes, and we finally found it. And I was actually doing like the nail clicks on the bamboo, like the
right.
And he really, really liked that part. It's like it really stuck out to him. It's just something, different. I think like after, sitting down and listening to the whole CD myself, like as it's in its complete form, I was really impressed with like that it's not so avant-garde that it scares off the regular person, but it's not so like typical of what you wouldn't find. Like, it's not like the running waters and clouds over the mountains sort of music, which is, it's great stuff, but it's a nice mix between the avant-garde and that sort of traditional, like the sounds you would expect to hear.
Well, and I think part of it is also, when you talk about running waters and you talk about things like that, and I think that we both, and I think we're going to get into that discussion on how we came up with not only names but styles, and really nothing was written, and how absolutely nothing was written. But you would look at me and say, mountain with running water and a tea field over here, or you would just say, here's the inspiration, And so we had that aspect of, okay, well, we want running water here, or we want boiling water here, as you'll see, like grinding tea, prepare the water, picking tea, water flows. With titles like that, there are aspects of it, and so even when mixing, I would go, okay, well, what does water flowing sound like, and how did we manage to deal with it? And so putting the right reverbs in and building the right space for each individual song, so that it really did take you somewhere, because that's everything that I do. It's got to take you somewhere. If it's not taking you somewhere, it gets deleted.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that too. And what I think I use just slightly different words, which is it convincing?
Yeah. But that's also the same way that I engineered when I engineered concerts. I come from an engineering standpoint, and so doing Broadway and doing music concerts, I want people to feel the intention of what's going on stage. So if it's a musical, then of course I've got to mix so that it sounds like I'm in a cathedral, if that's what's going on stage. But at the same time, if it's in a tiny room, you're trying to make this giant hall sound like a tiny room. And so it's learning how to manipulate sound. And so that's what I enjoyed so much, because when I'm working with you, first, I understand the shakuhachi flute, but I don't know all of its intricacies. And so as you started playing different intricacies within it, I'm like, oh wow, that's going to be fun. So for me, it was a lot of fun.
And I actually wanted to ask you one of the things, like, because I tinker around with recording myself. I'm no audio engineer by any means, but what I've always struggled with is, like, when I listen to a lot of recordings, I never can actually find a recording that really accurately captures everything with shakuhachi. But your recordings, like how you're working with it, maybe it's the mics, a combination of the mics and the mixers and the post work, but you're capturing a lot of like those really, really detailed elements. Are you able? I know it might be a little bit too nerdy for our crowd, but I would like to know maybe if you can give just a little description on how that works and like how you're thinking about that.
Okay, so first, I was blessed for a number of years to work alongside a gentleman named Andy Bradley, and I think you've worked with Andy before. I think you were at
Lucky Run.
Is that where you were with him? Okay, because I
believe so.
Wire Road. I'm sorry, Wire Road.
Wire Road. Okay.
Yeah, because I remember seeing a post that you had, and. Andy, of course, was the head engineer for Shepherd School of Music at Rice, and so I got to record a lot of shows at Rice back in the 90s. And the one thing was listening back, and then some of these people would come to me in the studio, and they would want to record, and you have to sit and listen to the instrument with nothing. You've got to really put your ear to the instrument and hear everything. And I know you noticed that I did that when you first started playing. I would walk around you and I would try to get my ear real close to the flute to see, what does this flute sound like? Where does it sound best? And then having to stand behind you to see what you were hearing. Obviously, I can't hear 100% because I'm not the person playing it, and you're going to have, your jaw is going to feel a different vibration, so you're going to hear it differently. But that being said, it's all about understanding the instrument and how the instrument actually sounds. So every time you switched flutes, I had to come in from the other room and listen to what that flute sounded like, and what did it sound like naturally. So that's the biggest portion right there. And then when I mic it, having headphones on and listening and adjusting the microphone until I found what would be the correct depth. And then I knew that I could EQ it from there, but I had to get a good quality between the low end and the high end, the bass and the treble. I had to get a good even recording between the bass and the treble. Then I could do whatever I wanted to. I could say, okay, well, we want this to have a little more treble in it. We want it to be a little more breathy. We want it to be a little more earthy. We want it to be, all of these things. And then what environment? In the end, what environment are we listening to? Are we in a canyon? Are we in a cathedral? Are we in the middle of a tea house that's only 20 by 30? What environment are we in? And past that, you start working with reverbs. Reverbs are your best friend, but the thing that happens is that people want all this bright sound, so most of the time people put so much high end in the reverb that it's like bzz.
Yeah.
So if I were to, even right now, hello, tss, 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 I've got a lot of reverb actually rolled off of this program. And so, when I'm chanting every night during my nightly broadcast, I have to bring it down. I have to tailor it down because I don't want it to go tss, tss, tss every time. I don't want to hear all of that bright reverb coming off of there. I want the reverb to be a bit darker.
Yeah.
To sound more like I'm in a temple as opposed to maybe being in a bright concert hall.
Yeah.
And really, it's just years of tinkering. Some people. Sometimes I talk to engineers and producers, and they've got a very precise way that they like to do things. And there's absolutely nothing precise about anything I do from that standpoint. I never go, well, I'm going to go to 14.2K and turn this up. I'm going to sweep my EQ along the spectrum, and when I hear the tone I'm looking for, that's where I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to tailor it from there. Which is what I did, mixing this. Now, fortunately, if you go back and you look at how I mixed it, if you were to look at the graphs, you'd see there's very little EQ anywhere on this album. It really is the probably the least amount of EQ I've ever done.
Wow.
And that was because, what did we do? You start with a great microphone, a great instrument, and a great player. And that's what we tried to do with, everywhere. I tried to mic all of the gongs and bowls up in such a way that I could get, from one mic or another, I could get what I was looking for. So with that, it was more about bringing in microphones, with the gongs and bowls. It was more about bringing in microphones here and bringing out, taking them in and out, because I was playing different instruments, and to keep the phase down and to keep the ambient sound down. For you, it was really about one great microphone, in a great position. You were playing amazing that night. The 2 nights that we recorded. So that was, that's the approach. And that's the approach for any time recording. If you can get the original sound onto disc or onto tape or onto, whatever your recording medium is, if you've got a great microphone, a great preamp, and you get into your program, everything else is easy because you can just work with it.
And thank you so much for the compliment. I mean, I think what really happened was just like the magic between the two of us. We were in different rooms, but we're making eye contact, and we know we're smiling, and then we're like giving ourselves like the eye, like, what are you doing? And like, kind of keeping ourselves in line, and we depart and come back together. So, and I think that was probably the most exciting recording session I've ever done, because it was, we show up at like 9 p.m. and then we sit and we chat and we start talking, we get ready, we pump ourselves up, and we start talking about what we want to do. And then before we know it, it's 2 a.m. and I guess I guess we end this now, right? And we'll see you guys tomorrow. And it was so relaxing, where in most of those recording sessions, you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, this is hour 2, that's another $100. And it's like, oh my God, we went into hour 3, that's $250. And so that none of that sort of angst was there.
Right. Well, it was funny because I listened to a Leland Sklar, who is, one of the greatest bass players of our time. He's played on thousands and thousands of albums and CDs that you've heard for years. And he was talking about recording now as opposed to recording back in the 70s. And back in the 70s, nobody cared how much time you used. You would spend two or 3 weeks, or maybe even 2 or 3 months in a studio building this amazing album. And it was an album, and it was made to be listened to from front to back. People took the time to go, every song flows one into the next. Something else that we tried very hard to do with this CD, we went back and said, okay, how is this going to flow the best? And we went back and forth 2 or 3 times going, well, let's move this, let's move that, so that you could listen to it as an album. You can listen to each thing independently, each song independently, but as an album, it really flows. So if you're having a tea session, which is the inspiration behind all of this, you could really have a complete tea session, and it would just flow from one to the next, and it would almost guide your session. And I have done that with myself. I've played it, and I was doing a virtual tea session with a friend of mine, and we had it playing, and it was funny because we adjusted our conversation to the music that was playing.
That's really interesting. So should we play a little bit of that first track for them?
Yeah. So A Morning Wind. We're going to start here and just see where it goes. There we go. So we'll go ahead and stop it there, just so that we can have time to share some other things with everyone. So yeah, as we got into it and we look at even the title, A Morning Wind, you can see yourself waking up, enjoying your morning tea, enjoying your morning coffee, enjoying your morning life, and
yes,
and really feel that sound. You can feel the wind inside there. You can feel the breeze. You can feel the sunlight come up. It really truly, had you given me any other title to open this CD with, I might have argued with you and said, no, it's got to be this track. It just always it always felt like that. The first time I heard it, I went, that's how the opening should be. And fortunately, you came and you went, this is how it should open.
Well, I'm glad that we thought alike on that one, because I would have fought you on that if you didn't think it. It's when I was also thinking about like the morning wind. I mean, I grew up in Wisconsin, and so I know that a winter morning wind hits you in the face, and like a really warm cup of tea or really hot piping cup of tea, it really, really helps, and it's comforting. So we have like a little bit of the aggression of the wind, but the comfort and the warmth of the tea, which is such a for me, that's the imagery I get constantly.
That's awesome. So do you want to move on to another song? Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's go ahead and just give people a little bit of a taste of some more of the CD. And please, if you guys have something that you're imagining, let us know what you think.
Absolutely.
So let's hide the name of the track before we play it, so we can play the next one, and then we'll ask them to see so it doesn't influence, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and go over to number 2, or do you want to skip around?
Let's go to number 2.
Okay. So we'll
Yeah, very, very different.
yeah. It's there again. My friend Navin piped in and put the comment up for a minute. It says, feels like a shamanic journey. And yeah, and I can understand that, because it really gets you to go inside. The title is called A Cool Breeze. And it truly does that for me. I can feel that cool breeze, but within that cool breeze, it's the cool breeze that I feel when I'm doing ceremony. It's that cool breeze, almost, if you think about it, because I do so many ceremonies and I do so much journeying in my other in the other half of my life, that it's that breeze that keeps my body grounded. So I can travel, but that breeze constantly keeps the physical body grounded into the earth. So it's very easy for me to come back. So I can understand that.
Yeah. For me, it's like This track reminds me the first time I went to study at a temple in Japan, and I remember it was hot. It was summertime. It was June, and I was staying there for for 2 weeks, and there was nothing more relieving than during like sitting meditation, or even just doing morning okyo or sutra reading. There was nothing better than just that cool breeze that came in through the front temple doors to give you a little bit of relief from the heat.
Oh, absolutely. And that would be the same way it was for me when I was in Bodh Gaya, India. It got to be, during the day, Fahrenheit, it would get up to from 112 to 118 Fahrenheit. And
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's hot.
That's hot. So to be under a tree and to have just a little bit of a breeze was bliss. It was definitely bliss.
To put it lightly.
Yeah. If it started raining, that was even better.
Oh yeah. I actually, it's interesting. One of the times it was interesting. The monk had asked me when I was studying at the temple. I was doing a concert in exchange for like the study, and as a thank you for the public, and thank you for him as well. And I remember it was raining on that night, and I had told him, like, he had come up to me. He's like, "Are you sure you're okay with the rain?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to be perfect. It's going to fit with the sounds." That was actually on my last trip to that temple. I go to the same place every single year.
Nice.
All right. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah. Do you want to just keep going in order, or do you want to jump around?
Let's jump around. Let's skip to number 4, and we'll go back to number 3.
Okay.
We'll switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
See, I love that ending part where you just start where we were. That's like a perfect example of like how you can communicate in music, and we were basically just working off of each other's motifs.
Absolutely. It was. It's funny, and I'm going to give everybody, just before I make my next statement, give everybody a second if they want to try to chime in on how they felt and what their inspiration or you know, what does it feel like to them? What are their emotions around this? And then we can talk about the actual name of the song, and I'll tell you about an interesting experience that I had recently. Okay, I can live with that. I I truly appreciate that answer because it is in many ways. So here we go. Falling leaves. And falling leaves, of course, we think about that in the fall time, in the fall time, and we think about that just the beauty of how leaves fall. But nothing better. I saw a video recently, and it was a young girl playing in the falling leaves, and so it was,
Hmm.
you know, I think this was in probably either like Georgia or North Carolina, definitely East Coast, and all of those beautiful, colorful amber leaves falling, and it was a bunch of them. You know, it's like one after another. It was a rainfall of leaves, and I remember just thinking about this song as that was going on, going. You know, she was just playing. She was trying to grab them out of the air, and she was dancing around, and she would reach down into the pile of them and throw them back up in the air again. I was like, wow. It's like if I were to do a music video to this, I would want her. It's like I want that. I want that video right there.
Hmm. I like this idea of celebration of life and falling leaves because what I was thinking was the sakura leaves. I'm always thinking about it related to, Japanese traditional music, and the idea of the falling of the leaves is a representation of mono no aware, which is the transience of things, and like that all things have an end and all things will. And so I think that the celebration of life, I think that is probably the most accurate answer that one could give if we're talking about something actually having a pure idea. But that for me was, I think that's a great answer.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, shall we go back one?
Let's
Or
go back one.
okay.
This one gives me a feeling of another, like, I have to always relate it back to Japanese culture because it's what I know best on this musical terms, and I'm thinking Yugen, this idea of like mysteriousness, and one of the classifications of Yugen is clouds in front of a mountain and kind of obscuring views, and it's so fitting because of the title of this track.
Right. Which is
Clouds dance above.
yes. I'm sorry. I was reading comments as well here just to see how people had commented in. So there's that. There's yeah, and I understand the heart centeredness of it. The more centered our heart is, the easier it is to see through that veil. The easier it is to see through those clouds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And,
Let's give him let's give him a taste of number 5. I think number 5 is really quite different.
Oh yeah, probably one that I've listened to more than any other track on here.
I think that makes 2 of us.
Here we go. It's quite a long song, so.
Yes, it is. But let me tell you why I like this one so much. As a musician studying like classical repertoire and in all like the Japanese lineages of things, I have this problem when I listen to music. I always listen so actively, and this is one of this pieces that there isn't a function happening. There isn't a melodic line that's present. We probably can call the overtones of the gongs and that sort of thing, but it like what I didn't realize what was so great is that the air sound is just almost like you hold your breath in and it all just releases, and I can finally listen to this piece and like it's in an immersive way where I'm just like throwing myself into this ocean of sound, and it's just like bathing into the gongs. It's really quite a magical experience.
It is indeed. It really. So, "A Tremor in the Ground" is the name of the song, and when I listened to it, there was an experience that I used to have, especially in India, where I'd be sitting, and I would feel the earth breathe. And then I'd go, man, is this just my imagination? And I'd open my eyes and I'd start seeing this expansion and contraction of the earth. and obviously it was probably physically not happening, but it was still very physical to me.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And just to see things breathe like that, being in the forests in Thailand, seeing the trees react to your energy, see them almost as if when you need them, their branches drop down. When it starts to rain, you almost see the branches come together to protect you from getting rained on too hard.
Mm.
So, maybe it's all in my mind, but but still, it was an experience that definitely, when I listen to this, it's an experience that I remember. It brings me back to a time. So therefore, I tend to keep my headphones on when I go out to the park and go walking, and sometimes I just go sit. And this is one of the very few projects that I've ever done that I actually listen to over and over again. Usually by the time I finish mixing something. So it's one thing to have played it. It's another thing to have spent another however many hours mixing it and mastering it. So usually I don't want to listen to it anymore. And
that's a really good point.
And I've listened to this a great deal.
Mm. Yeah, me as well. I think this is probably my proudest recording stuff that I've played so far. I'm really happy with every single track. I love every single sound, and I think this was really my favorite collaboration I've done so far.
And I'm sure we'll do some more.
I hope so. Well, let's give them a taste of the next one. So the next one is called Water Flows, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Here we go. You're not on.
There we go. So something really magical keeps happening as we're listening to these tracks. I can feel like my body warming, especially on this one. I can feel like the sounds of the gong, and it's just like your body just like it feels like this like compassion, and like I can feel myself heating up. And it's just as I heat up enough, my air conditioning hits on, and I get that cool breeze, and I keep getting that flashback of being in the temple. It's wonderful. It's
Nice.
such a magical experience.
Nice. So the I think the next song might actually be the one that your friend was talking about before. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's no, it's the next one. It's the
Oh, is
one
it?
after that, number
Is
8.
it?
Yeah,
Okay,
grinding.
okay. But
So, but yeah.
we'll jump up here, and we'll just go on to number 7 first, and
Yeah, for sure. I like the rhythmic elements in this one, and how it's like the this one is much more where I hear the active listening happening, where you hear the motifs develop and how things are developing over time.
absolutely. And emotionally for this one, it's very easy for me to because I like watching videos of tea processing. I love to watch those videos and where they've gone into Yunnan province or even through some of the Japanese, but really I think more of the videos that I've seen have come from China. And on this one, just watching people move through the fields and picking tea.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does flow with that, and the cadence flows with kind of the way that they work. They're not speedy. They're not slow. They're just kind of gently moving through. And this one and this one and this one and this one and this one, and that's kind of how it flows for me. It's just like it's very easy to just flow through life with it. It's an easy walking song too.
Yeah, and it has the rhythm of like picking
does.
tea, the rhythm of walking. Yeah, like as you're saying. All right, well, let's give them a little bit of grind.
Here we go. So we'll cut it there for right now.
Yeah. It's intense. It's
And
intense.
and there is in that particular song, there's definitely a perfect balance to me of yin and yang because where it was going to, and we'll save that.
Yes. You know what I like my friend Kaz had walked into the room, and I was also thinking at the same time, like when if people are walking in during this into the chat when we're just listening to this and sitting here, and it's this really crazy avant-garde sound, and be like, God, what is going on with these two? But it's this when Kaz walked in, I was just thinking like this is kind of like my Van Halen sort of guitar solo on Shakuhachi, because it has all those crazy like weird sounds, and yeah, that weird. And so I have that sort of image with me.
So there's an artist that came to Houston a few years ago that you may know of, Kaji Hino.
Yes.
And so there are aspects of it. It's like I would love to do this project with somebody like Kaji Hino, because nothing's ever going to be the same twice. And,
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun. I had such a blast, and I really enjoy that aspect within what we did, and to have something that wasn't so traditional sounding necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making both of us step out of our comfort zone. And I think this whole project pulled both of us out of our comfort zone.
Oh, for sure.
Because
I've never worked with gongs and bells before.
And for me, from the standpoint of trying to think about playing a song per se, even now, if I were to have to go back and play all this again, it would take me a while. I would really have to rehearse with it and figure out everything that I did, because I am such an in the moment player. What's the energy going between us?
And I love the energy of improvisation, and I think it's one of the best things that I can do, because I can just forget about all the techniques, I can forget about all the notes, I can forget about pitch, I make a feeling, and for both of us that being our specialty, it seems it's just like, oh, so you're gonna go there, okay, I'm gonna go here as well, and then I start to switch it up a little bit, going somewhere else, and you go, oh, I know where he's going, and so it's like it's playing. I can't call this work. It's just so much fun.
It is, and trying to let everything breathe.
Oh, yeah.
Most importantly, I would start to play, and then you would like step back, and as you were playing something, a couple of times I just got lost. I'm like, I'm not playing right now. I'm just getting lost. I'm enjoying this way too much. And it's like, oh no, hold on, I've got to play something here.
The same thing happened to me, because I just started bathing in that sounds, and you have these amazing headphones on, and then you got this slow gong roll happening, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm ready. I'm ready to take me now. And then I was like, oh God, I'm working right now. I got to play a note or something.
Or not.
or not. There's plenty of times I decided not to play a note.
So the final song on the CD really brings us back to where all of this begins, of course, and that's with the breath. We go back and think about both of our times inside of monasteries and meditation retreats, and we think about the breath. And this is a little bit different because we're viewing the breath. Traditionally, we think, if we're thinking about viewing the breath, we might think about a cool day or a cold day, but it's funny. I've had some moments in the middle of extremely hot summers, India, where I swear I could see my breath, but it was
because it was cold.
Because my breath was what was cool, and going out into the heat, and it's like, what the. Never quite seen it like that. Or after you drink, a friend of mine who had a shop there would always come find me, and he had these frozen bottles of water, and I always knew where he got his water from, because in India you have to be real careful, because they go into the back and they have this big box of fresh caps with the seals on them, and so they take these old bottles and they go fill them up with the hose and then put the cap on, and you know it's not fresh because you can see stuff floating around in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But he always had great water, an important thing in India during the summer. But they would
Yes.
they had a deep freeze in their store, and they would freeze them all. And so he would bring me a frozen bottle, and by the time he had walked it from the store just to where I was sitting, the first third of it would have melted. It was that hot. But when you drink that and then you breathe out, you see your breath.
So let me, because this is a traditional Japanese piece called Solkan, which literally just means view the breath. But let me talk just a little bit about it. There's these the two characters, like I said, Sol and Iki, so breath and viewing, and this name actually comes from like Zen practice, something called Seikan, which is serene contemplation. So there's so much dynamic things that are happening in this piece, and there's a lot of airy sounds. And the idea is that you just get lost in the lower register of this long flute, and it's your breath, it's your soul, and you just wait. You're just waiting and getting lost, and you're playing, and all that sound, you're able to see the truth from the mind's eye, and so you're incorporating, like in this piece, a lot of that natural feeling of breath, and like really thinking of how can I naturally make the rhythm flow without actually doing it, but just like not trying to do, but just do.
Awesome. You ready?
I'm ready.
Wow.
It's still strange listening to myself play. That never gets I don't think you ever get used to that.
No. Mysterious and deep. Yeah, absolutely. As a meditation retreat would be. Mysterious and deep.
Very, very, very mysterious and very deep. Well, I want to personally say thank you so much for collaborating with me on this project. I feel so blessed, and I feel very changed as a person, from doing this with you.
Oh, this is, like I said, it's been so much fun, and the whole process has been a blast. It expanded me way beyond what I normally do, and really made me think in a different format for the gongs and for the bowls, and really how to. I use them so much as healing tools. I forget that they are percussion instruments sometimes. I forget that they were actually designed to be used in music, even though maybe the Tibetan bowls, maybe not so much, because they're usually not tuned in traditional notes. You really have to go and find them,
Yeah.
find the right tuning. But I've got to say, it really has been so much fun, and indeed, I look forward to being able to do concerts again. Hopefully, sometime in the near future, we'll be back in a position to do this live again.
Oh yes.
The last show was amazing, and I
Yeah,
just
that was really magical.
I know that now that we've gone back and we've been able to listen to it again more and really allowed it to flow back through our lives. It's going to be an amazing collaboration that we're definitely going to want to record that one. We're going to want to
Yes.
record that night because I think we'll get some very fun material, both video and audio.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, yeah. Well, if I hope that if you guys are able to pick up a copy of the CD, we'd love to hear what you think about it in full. So, yeah, and thank you all for being here and listening. It really appreciate your time and you sharing this experience with us as well.
absolutely. Shawn, thank you for everything. For everybody who's out there watching, thank you all for coming on. Thank you for taking your time to join us, to have a listen. Please message either one of us at any time if you have questions, or if you have comments, especially. You can come back and put them on the video, or just send us a message. We would love to find out what you think. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and I look forward to being able to get back in person with you. All of this social distancing is making collaborations a little bit more difficult, but luckily we're able to do things like this where we can get on and share with each other and share with each of you. So, take care. Have a beautiful evening. I'm going to say good night. Any last words?
Just be safe, everybody. Good night.
Good night.